Hello, YouTube. We're on the other side of the tipping point. Um, no big Hollywood thing went on, but what did go on? Maybe something went on that we don't see yet. One of those unknown unknowns. But anyways, who knows what went on the last week? Barack Obama being out of the United States, peddling his wares. Um, there were those protests in England about student loans, student financing to get an education. Um, there was that missile slash airplane slash Palladian thing that went off. I didn't see it, so I can't say it was real. I don't know. And some of the people that I know that are actually down in that area didn't see it, and they were out at that time. So, yeah, I don't know. They may have not been looking. But what went on underneath that we didn't get to see that was written that's going to come up? You know, when they bring out the bills and they push it through, so they have to push it through so you can see what's in the bill. Maybe one of those things kind of went on where they're trying to push this fraud, this illegal system on everybody. Unlawful system. It's legal. It's just not lawful. But anyways, I don't know what went on. We'll see what's going to be in the discussion in the next couple of months, trying to figure out what had happened during this tipping point. Maybe there was something that went on. It just wasn't a building blowing up. Maybe what went on was something to the level of the Patriot Act or larger that is going to decimate the people in the next little while. We'll see. And posting videos I find very humorous that people come in, especially on something like the WebBot. The only fault I find with the WebBot, and it's not the WebBot, I think it's the people listening to it. I don't hold any of his dates to the fire. I don't say, oh, this is when it's going to happen, or this is how it's going to happen. I look at it as just an interesting way to look at the patterns that are forming within, well, if you want to call it reality, seeing like who's talking about what. The WebBot, to me, the way he explains it, is nothing more than you or I going out and looking at a couple of videos a day and making our own reality tunnels, building our own patterns from those, and kind of coming up with our own assumptions of what is going on out there. We all have come up with the assumption that this system is ready to collapse and is corrupt. So we're in agreement, most of us, on that. Some of us are still saying, oh, no, it's just coming out of it. You know, look at the stock market. It's wonderful. Except we're at 25% unemployment here in Canada as well, I guess, as the U.S. So to me, the WebBot is nothing more than a computer-assisted way of looking at data out there. It goes and it scours linguistic, like kind of patterns and brings them back, and then writes up like a data sheet where you can go in and you can look at it. Instead of looking at multiple videos, you look at consolidated information that brings out patterns, and even you looking at that kind of brings out new patterns. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's real or it's not real. It just means that these are the patterns that are looking at this program that are forming. And then you look at it and you say, oh yeah, I can see these patterns forming. This is where these patterns are going. So I don't necessarily hold the data that is going on there because it's reflecting what is happening in the past, or has happened in the past, or is happening as they're collecting the data to predict what's coming up in the future. And the future is like random. It's like we're moving off into chaos. How are you going to figure these patterns? That's why I find money as it is now kind of hard to stomach, because people are making choices of what's going on in the future, but they have no freaking clue of what's going on in the future. They're patterning off of past patterns, which doesn't necessarily mean these patterns in the future are going to be right. Like Gerald Celente or Max Kaiser or even Alex Jones and all the alternative media guys are looking at past patterns. Like what has happened in the past doesn't necessarily mean is going to happen in the future or will happen in the future like they predicted with the past patterns. So I like the WebBot for the simple fact is that it's gathering of these patterns and it's saying this is the direction it looks like it's going. Let's look at the data. It's going in this direction. Let's make assumptions on these, and then if those assumptions are right, that'll move our data. Instead of going to the right, it'll move us to the left now. And it doesn't necessarily mean we won't go back to, I don't know if this is making any sense, but it's just kind of it's pattern recognition. That's what I see it as. Linguistic pattern recognition in the program, and then you make your assumptions off those linguistic pattern recognitions. So that's why I like when Cliff is talking, he looks at the data, he's a little bit more in depth in the data, he might be a little too close to the data to kind of give what really is saying in the data, because he's putting his, as he calls it, his monkey mind to work. So we're on the other side of the tipping point, is the presumed tipping point. So we'll see what's going on. I'm not giving up on something like the WebBot. I find it very interesting. Do I hold my hat on that and say that this is the way it's going to go? No. Another thing I find very funny, when you post a video, everybody out there that thinks they're in the know because they're collecting their little bit of data and they're saying it's a load of horseshit, give up on yourself, man. Like, you know, there's other ways of looking at data, not necessarily the pessimistic or optimistic way of going about it. And when I say that people are going to kind of come together in goodwill and, you know, work together and that, I mean that they're going to pull away from the institutions and the society that is dominated by individuals that are only looking out for themselves. People are going to pull away from that and realize that they have to start looking out for themselves in their communities, in their families, and not give a shit about going to their jobs or whatever. They're going to actually start to pull together to do that. And those communities will back those individuals, hopefully, when the popo come to get them, to take them away. If people start to teach each other how to actually say, we're not participating in this fraudulent admiralty system anymore. But a lot of people are still making money. A lot of people are still enjoying their jobs. A lot of people are still, you know, doing their thing and being very materialistic. But once that the illusionary monetary system, legal system, and governmental system start to falter, these people start to pool back into their communities. That's the way I see it. That's my interpretation of what I've been seeing. I hope it does, because I mean, the only way to build a better world is if your community is working. And if it's not working because people have to step outside to participate in this thing that we call civilization or society, and not pay attention to what they're doing in their communities or to their family, then it's just, it's messed up.